Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar, which is entitled Online Support for Final Year Projects. Over the course of the next 40 minutes or so, we'll be taking a look at the Research and Writing Skills for Dissertations and Projects online training program, and exploring how this might prove to be a valuable resource for your undergraduate students during the current period of disruption and beyond. You'll be hearing from 4 Epigeum representatives over the course of today's webinar. First, I'll be starting things off. My name is Rosalind, and I'm Marketing Manager at Epigeum. I'll then be joined by Alan Stafford, who is our Director of Academic Partnerships, Victoria Stoner, who is our Senior Academic Partnerships Manager, and Nick Broom, who is a Senior Learning Consultant here at Epigeum, and they'll each be taking us through a different section of the agenda. Speaking of which, let's take a closer look at that agenda now. First of all, I'll be giving you a very brief overview of Epigeum and our work before handing over to Alan, who will be talking us through the structure and the ethos of the Research and Writing Skills programme, then handing over to Victoria, who will provide a short demonstration of the course so that we can see how it all works in action. She will then pass to Nick, who will explore some of the ways that the programme can be rolled out and used in universities, as well as giving us a summary of some of the implementation and subscription options available to you. We'll then wrap up with any questions that you may have. And speaking of questions, everybody on the call today is currently muted to help avoid any audio issues. However, please do get involved and ask any questions that you may have at any time, or you can save them until the end if you prefer. You should be able to see a control panel for the GoToWebinar software that we're using today. The panel is normally at the top or on the right-hand side of your screen, and it can be expanded or hidden by clicking on a small white arrow on an orange background. Within the control panel, you should see a questions drop-down, where you'll be able to type in your question at any point, and we'll address it at the end. So, to start with a very brief summary of who we are and what we do. Epigeum was established as a spin-out company from Imperial College London in 2005, before being acquired by Oxford University Press 10 years later, to further the university's objective of excellence in research, scholarship and education worldwide. Over the past 15 years, Epigeum has developed, hosted and maintained a wide range of interactive online training courses to support the core activities of higher education institutions around the world. With hundreds of universities using Epigeum courses to advance the skills and knowledge of their academic and professional staff, their researchers, and their students. All Epigeum courses draw on evidence-based learning design, cutting-edge technology, and comprehensive subject knowledge to deliver training of the highest quality across 4 key areas: research, teaching and development, support and well-being, and studying. Now, that studying area has been a focus of ours for many years, and we have published quite extensively in this area. Our studying programs target the academic skills and understanding that are central to creating a positive experience for your students, strengthening and extending existing academic skills training provision anytime, anywhere. So whether you're guiding students through the transition to higher education, honing the transferable skills that build long-term employability, or perhaps clarifying expectations around educational integrity, these are programs that will deliver rich and coherent active learning experiences to optimize student satisfaction. All of our studying programs can be explored on our website. We've actually included our studying brochure as a handout to accompany this session, and you can access that by clicking on the Handouts drop-down tab in your GoToWebinar panel. However, we are all here today to focus on one key area, and that is online support for final year projects. So it is with this in mind that we discuss our Research and Writing Skills for Dissertations and Projects programme, and I will now hand over to Alan to take it from here.
Thank you, Rosalind, and hello everyone. The Research and Writing Skills resource is made up of 10 interactive online modules, which together provide clear and comprehensive training to ensure that all undergraduate students are able to execute their final year dissertations and projects to the best of their ability, despite working remotely, despite disruption to the usual schedule, anytime, anywhere. In fact, there are 5 key points that we wanted to highlight today in relation to the programme, which provide a bit of structure to the rest of this session and underline how the Research and Writing Skills for Dissertations and Projects programme could support you and your undergraduate students. We will come back to each of these considerations in turn, but first I wanted to give you a brief overview of the background of this programme. Starting at the beginning with its development. As you may know, the majority of Epigeian programmes are developed through a process of collaboration between world-class subject experts, partner institutions and in-house specialists. And through this process, we are able to create content of the highest quality while sharing the cost, and thereby making consistent, cost-effective digital training achievable for all. Research and Writing Skills for Dissertations and Projects was produced using this collaborative development model, involving multiple stages of commissioning, workshopping, drafting, testing, and reviewing content. And we were very fortunate to be able to draw on the expertise and experience of 2 lead advisors throughout that process. Both Professor Gina Whisker and Nicholas Walliman are experts in their fields and came with a really strong vision for what the programme could achieve and how it could enhance the undergraduate experience in universities worldwide. They were particularly keen on the idea that undergraduate students should be taking on authentic research experiences and on the importance of identifying and targeting the skills they need to make a success of this. Skills which they had perhaps not encountered before and which would prove readily transferable to their future careers, both within and outside academia. We also benefited from the work of a diverse team of authors and reviewers, including an accessibility advisor who has actually worked with us on many of our programs. And of course, we also received the input of an international development group of higher education institutions. By working together in this way, we were able to produce a programme that truly met the needs of universities and their students, that integrated the research, best practices and experiences of our expert author and advisor team, and that stood up to the scrutiny of all of our reviewing individuals and institutions. So to return to our 5 key considerations and address that first one, which really underpins the development of the whole resource. And that is the need for comprehensive guidance throughout the research process from start to finish. The finished programme is made up of 10 modules, each one taking between 30 and 50 minutes to complete, and tackling a different phase of the undergraduate research process, from the early stages of devising a research question and working with a supervisor for the first time, through to navigating literature reviews and ethical approvals, weighing up different methodological approaches and data collection methods, and presenting findings in a clear and coherent structure. By covering each stage of the process in turn, we are able to ensure absolute clarity around expectations, as well as thorough understanding of key processes and things to consider and watch out for at each stage. As our lead advisor pointed out, the undergraduate dissertation is usually the first time that students have to carry out an individual research project, a task that can seem daunting if they've had little to no training in research skills prior to beginning this process. And perhaps this may seem even more daunting for those students currently gearing up to start work on their final year dissertation or project during this period of uncertainty. What this programme is able to provide, therefore, is a firm baseline of support right from the get-go to ensure that they can make a strong start and access the guidance and support they need, no matter what happens over the weeks and months that follow. Now, a key thing to bear in mind also is that understanding is tested through summative quizzes at the end of each module, allowing you to efficiently measure students' progress and see where they've got up to in this process. Next, providing a consistent baseline of support also means providing guidance that is pertinent to a wide range of different subject areas, which brings us to our second consideration. Within each course in this programme, as well as presenting plenty of explanations and activities that apply to all disciplines, you will also find content that speaks to specific subject areas, including discipline-specific examples and scenarios which really aim to make the theory relatable and accessible for students, opportunities for students to relate learning to their own context and consider their own personal applications of what they've been working through, and opportunities for personal reflection, again making sure that students are truly engaging with the course content and considering how it relates to their own work. So really the thinking here is to ensure that all students get the support that they need at a top level and in relation to their specific subject area, so that the learning sticks because it feels genuinely pertinent to their own context. Our third consideration highlights the way in which the programme delivers this guidance and support through an active learning approach, which numerous studies have indicated is an effective way for students to become engaged in the learning process. And the Research and Writing Skills programme draws on a wide range of interactive content to deliver an active learning experience for students, one that will truly consolidate their skills and understanding. For example, dynamic diagrams and interactive activities, as well as video interviews, are used alongside concise explanations to deliver key information and consolidate understanding as we go along. Learners are also encouraged to apply their knowledge and skills to a rich variety of interactive scenarios, strengthening their understanding of the topic and reinforcing the practical applications of their training. At this point, Vicky will take us through some of the programme features in more detail via a brief demonstration of some of its modules. As well as highlighting these three key points that we've discussed so far, she'll also try to give you an idea of how your students could be using the programme over the coming weeks and months, what sorts of things they'd be working through, and how you could measure their progress. So I'll hand over to Vicky.
Hi all, welcome to the demo part of today's webinar. I'm going to take you through a brief walkthrough to give you a feel of the course and to highlight some of the features and activities. I'll be showing you a selection of screens from 5 of the modules today, so not all of the modules. And first of all, this is the main course screen. Moving on to module 1 though. At the beginning of each module, there is a selection of introduction screens designed to guide users through every module. This is the first introduction screen, which talks through the authors that were brought up earlier on, the module structure, module highlights, and a list of the supporting institutions that helped out in the development group. On the next screen is an introduction to the programme features, which I will be highlighting a few of them today. Content, pods and icons, learning portfolio feature, application screens, the quiz, and some terminology. Also highlighted here is screen duration, learning portfolio, and videos as well, so it goes a little bit more detail on those. On the next screen, learning outcomes has been detailed, and this is specific to every single module. This is the first screen in Module 1, Preparing Your Research and Managing Your Supervisor, which aims to set the scene and start students thinking about their project, what their project will entail, as well as their own role and the role of their supervisor. At the top of the screen is an indication of the average time it will take to complete the core content on each screen. These tend to be between 4 to 6 minutes per screen. In the sidebar, you will find the employability skills icons, which identify key skills to demonstrate to future employers the transferable skills they are developing, for example, creativity, which has been highlighted here, communication, report and writing, and presentation skills. And you'll see some more throughout some of the screens I'll show you in a minute. Elsewhere in the course, the sidebar also includes your context, download, and useful advice pods containing additional material. The videos here feature students and supervisors giving advice on what makes a good dissertation and how to get started. These are broken down into short clips with transcripts available to see below. The screen then moves on to a note-making activity for students to write down their own ideas about what a dissertation is and how to get started, with feedback provided. The structure of the screen is typical of the pedagogical structure across the whole course, starting with key information in a presentation activity, followed by interactive exercises to develop and reinforce the information. Now moving on to a screen from Module 2. Throughout the modules, there are varied examples and scenarios reflecting different subject areas and approaches so that the content is relevant to a wide range of students across sciences, arts, and humanities. This is a screen from the project management module. Unlike other modules, it provides students with practical tools. This first activity shows the student to select a research method to view a sample Gantt chart. With pinpoint examples and how to use the chart effectively, a link is then provided in the resources section to an online Gantt chart template. Here, the following note-making activity asks students to start putting the information into their own context by mapping out their key tasks. They make notes for each of the questions and then are available to view a summary and print it out. Print out here. Moving on to a screen from Module 3. This module is on time management. And again, we have a screen which focuses on providing practical skills to help students manage their own projects. The first activity helps students to prioritise their key project tasks according to how urgent and important they are. Hovering over the headings in the grid gives a summary of the types of tasks each quadrant should include and useful tips. Students can then populate the grid with their own tasks and print out a summary list, which again, down here. The second activity helps students to start managing their daily tasks using a diary or a planning tool. Now moving on to a screen from Module 6. From the Research Methods and Methodology module, this screen outlines what qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods are, and helps students to understand which would be the most appropriate approach for their research. In the first activity, they are given descriptions of each approach, and students are prompted to reflect on how it would relate to their own discipline. The examples given suggest how students from different disciplines could use each approach for their research into the topic of fear of crime. Below, students are then asked to drag and drop the sentences into the appropriate column according to whether they belong to quantitative, qualitative, or both, in order to test understanding of each approach. Once in the grid, the sentences are then reduced to keywords, providing at a glance overview. Now moving on to a screen from Module 8. This screen discusses statistical tests. The first activity shows a labelled graphic of a diagram for selecting statistical tests, with the activity below designed as a decision tree that actually takes the student through each step of the flow diagram to determine which statistical test they should use. This is a great example of how some complex concepts are made accessible through clear explanation, visual representation, and practical application. Now, I'm just going to quickly go back to Module 1, and I'm going to show you an application screen, which we have application screens at the end of every single module. Finally, each module is rounded off with an application screen, which helps students develop their skills further and put their learning into practice. The screen offers 3 different scenarios, which students can choose from according to their subject discipline. And it takes them through the thought processes and decisions for refining the scope of their research question. It is also followed by questions that start to guide students through the same thought process for their own project with feedback provided. And as you can see here, some more employability kind of skills icons as well. The final screens include a module summary listing, the key takeaways, as well as a link of downloading the portfolio, which allows students to evaluate their level of competency and provide evidence. The resource bank provides a list of references, additional web resources, and a downloadable glossary. And if my internet allows it. Onto the module quiz, which should be loading right now. Each module will include an end of module test, providing 10 multiple choice questions from a bank of questions. And that, for today, is the end of the demonstration from me, but I will be now passing on to my colleague, Nick Broom, that will be talking to you about some implementations, options, and some case studies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victoria, and hello, everyone. Just wait a second for the slides to come up. There we go, lovely. Thank you. Looking now at the first of these final 2 points from our agenda, we're aware that perhaps now more than ever, students may well feel a need to access information and support anytime, anywhere, and to be able to dip in and out of content according to their specific needs, schedule, or even location in the world. The Research and Writing Skills program can either be embedded into your virtual learning environment or learning management system, and we will give you the files in order to do this, or access can be provided through our own dedicated online platform. There are advantages to both methods of delivery, but in either case, this online format means that students truly can determine where and when they want to engage with the resources. And I'll go into more detail on this in a moment. And in fact, this flexible self-paced format can also facilitate a blended learning approach whereby the online learning component is supplemented through other forms of teaching. Over the coming weeks and months, this might take the form of live webinars, workshops, catch-ups, for instance, where you could flip the classroom and come together to discuss the core ideas and content covered in the program, applying it to the student's specific projects and needs at the time. We will also provide the tools that you need to get started with this, including a learning portfolio and an instructor manual, which contains activities that you could use to this end. The next slide refers to a case study that we did with the University of Antwerp. It's a nice example of an institution that's taken advantage of the flexibility afforded by the online format of this program from, as I say, University of Antwerp in Belgium. They were also actually part of the development groups that contributed to the development of the actual program. They've taken a gradual approach to the implementation of the program and have increased and are increasing the number of faculties and disciplines using the resources over time. And they've found the anytime, anywhere access to be particularly useful for their international students, many of whom find this resource beneficial. At Antwerp, the program is not made mandatory for anyone, but business engineering, business economics students are told to do the course, but it's not explicitly compulsory. However, one question in the exam cannot be answered unless they have studied the program, a fact that interestingly the students are not made aware of beforehand. An analysis is planned in the future at Antwerp to assess which parts and pages are engaged with most, as this should help to show which areas students find more difficult, and this can be used to improve teaching and learning at the university. Flexible delivery options. As a learning consultant, my role is really to ensure that your institution has the support it needs to successfully utilize and evaluate an Epigeum program. And in the case of the Research and Writing Skills for Dissertation and Projects program, there are various factors that I'd be asking you to consider as we work together to devise a strategic rollout of the resource in order to truly make it work for you and your users. The sort of areas that we'd be asking you to consider discussing with you would be, so who is involved? So for example, the project team. So would you have more than one? Would you have smaller and less, perhaps more diverse project champions within the faculties and departments? What would there someone be there from the IT department? Who are the holders? Would the program be held by the library? Would it be held by HR department, or whatever department is relevant to the program? And who are the target audiences, and what are you hoping to achieve with each? Also, in terms of course delivery, will the program be hosted on your VLE or LMS, or on the Epigeum platform, which we mentioned a little bit before? What didactic approach will be taken? All Epigeum courses are designed ideally for a blended learning approach, but will depend on objectives and resources available at your institution. It may have to be, you might prefer to have it standalone, or can it be allied to workshop activity? There's also the rollout, the organization of that. Will it be time released? Will you be perhaps making one or more modules available pre-arrival, before they even arrive at the university? So those are the sort of areas that cover rollout. Incentivizing participation. If it is, obviously, if they have to take the program, it is much easier to get uptake, but implementation still has to be well planned so that learning objectives are achieved. Also, you would need to decide what would happen if a person doesn't take or doesn't pass the mandatory training. If it's voluntary, usually more awareness raising activity is needed, and perhaps incentivizing with perhaps certificates and credits. Digital badges are used as well in some institutions. But I'll speak more about the promotional support in a moment. And then some people do a mixture. One course, or perhaps a part of a course, could be embedded in mandatory training, while the rest of it is left voluntary. But hopefully the small part that is encountered in the mandatory training perhaps will lead to interest in other modules in the program. In terms of customization, also an important part. Here you might be assessing whether the program needs local, regional, national, institution-specific content. While you're deciding that, we can give access to our hosted platform, so you can have time to analyze and see where a program perhaps might need to be customized, but we'll give more detail on that in the next slide. So customization for institution. So two things: program access via Epigeum's platform, and program access on your institution's VLE LMS. So the first one's accessing the program via our platform. This is the simplest way of integrating local content. You would basically put up your content around the link that the user would go to access our platform. The user would know exactly where to find that information on their VLE. So that is the first solution. The second would be, as mentioned earlier in the presentation, the course can be customized, or not indeed, and uploaded to your VLE LMS. To customize requires a knowledge of working in HTML, which your IT department will be able to do. The issue normally is actually booking in their time. We allow customization to be carried out by the institution in certain elements of the program. Your context pods down the side, the resource banks, you can add, hide, and delete screens, and you can also edit the quizzes. We do not permit the altering of core content for both IP and technical reasons, the latter being that it could interfere with the inner workings of the program. An example of customization in this program would be adding a link to your context box, which invites the user to find out the guidelines and policies on the roles and responsibilities of students, supervisors, and examiners for your department or institution, and make sure you follow them. Here you could add in some links to help the students on that particular your context pod. The third point at the bottom, coming soon, learning tools interoperability. We're working on LTI, as it's known, which we hope will bring the best of both worlds, the ability to make some key customization, but using the user's university login. We will be sending out more information about this once we are nearer to completion of the project. So yes, I mentioned promotion before. So we have a wide range of of articles to help you promote. So as well as helping you to customize the course content itself to suit your students, we're also able to provide materials to help you devise promotional and communications activity to drive awareness of and engagement with the Research and Writing Skills program. This includes delivering training via PowerPoints, video recordings and webinars, providing customizable materials for internal promotion, such as posters, adverts, presentations, plasma screen slides, and suggested copy for social media campaigns, and so on. One of the institutions using this program at the moment, the University of Heidelberg in Germany, constantly reminds students about it via a weekly newsletter, and they also send out a printed flyer featuring it twice a year. I'll be happy to answer any implementation questions at the end, but at this point, I'll now hand back to Alan, who will talk us through some next steps.
Thank you, Nick. So we offer flexible subscription options for institutions with options for 1 or discounted 3-year subscriptions. We offer university-wide site licenses as well as limited licenses for individual faculties or departments. We also offer access to individual modules, so you can choose a package that truly meets your needs and means, allowing you to provide cost-effective targeted training where and when it is most needed. Finally, we offer individual user access via our hosted platform. As you can see on this slide, we have an additional 20% discount for 3-year subscriptions available until the end of July this year. And for pricing for your institution, please get in touch with me on alan.stafford@oup.com. Finally, I'd like to remind people that there are 2 handouts available in the handout section of your GoToWebinar toolbar. There is a flyer specific to this program and also a brochure for our studying list as a whole. And now I'd like to invite any questions. And again, you can access the question area on your GoToWebinar toolbar.